Yeah, listen up, this ain't a game. Truth Seekers 88, we reclaim no mask, no lies, no doubt, no pause. We see the system, we know the cause. We ain't blind, we read the signs. Contracts twist, but we hold the line. Mike stands tall, the sheepdogs ride. Admin's watching, truth stays alive. We laugh together, cry as one. Tribe ain't broken, we ain't done. Justice lives, truth runs deep, heart to heart. Family speaks, no more shadows, no disguise. We see past the blinding lies. Hand in hand we walk, we show. Truth Seekers 88, let them know. Through the fight, through the years, through the laughter, through the tears. Sheepdogs, the admin stand. Truth Seekers 88, we take a stand.
Hey, what's happening? Truth Seekers Tribe, get on your feet, make some noise. Make some noise. Quit listening to the noise, to the white noise, to the hot air coming out of these actors and actresses as they read their scripts from Wag the Dog and As the World Turns and God knows where else is coming from. And want everybody to believe we're at war. We're not at war, folks. Not that type of war, anyway. So grab your loved ones, like and share this out tonight. We're gonna break it all down for you. We're gonna break it all down for you. And the first thing we're gonna do is First thing we're going to do is see if I can get it pulled up. There we go. Here we go. I bypassed it somehow, but here we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking. This first part of the show is because I really want you to be able to gather the information and then let's have discussions as we go throughout the rest of the show. All right. But Inspired did a really good video 2 days ago. We're not going to play all of it. It's an hour and 5 minutes long. We're going to play a good portion of it. And let me check the .com for you. Let's see. It does appear to be working on my end. Truth Seekers is working on my end. So we should be all good. We should all be good on Truth Seekers. Excuse me. But basically, folks, you know, we've explained to you over and over again. They're doing nothing new under the sun. All this stuff that they're telling you about the Iran's got nuclear weapons. It's really either Israel, and Trump is doing everything he can to be forced into the cause by Israel. We all know Trump is his own character, right? And doesn't have to be forced into it. He's just reading the script. He has no power. They don't have any power left. Okay, folks? It's playing out. Why we are allowing to play out, I can't fathom that part. I just really cannot fathom that part. I don't have any answers for that. But what I do have answers for is that we win. We've already won. We're going to have to go through the rigmarole of the 2030 plan. They're going to push the RV on us in a digital, the rest of the digital format. We're going to refuse that, as many of us as that can, and we're going to keep getting it. And it's like unless they're ready to run that gold, they need to kick rocks. That's it. No more taking good people and having them live this shitty ass fucking life that they, excuse my language, that they've scripted out for us. It's got to stop. We have to pay more attention to our own livelihoods and separate them from the matrix and not play their game. We've been doing a lot with the court systems. I used to help people get their car payments made. Now we are doing it electronically. I mean, not electronically, but through the coupon method and other various means as well. And we're having success. Not at every turn, but we're having success. The most persistent people are the ones that are having the most success. Okay. And they're moving on to other things too. Okay. But we're also helping people to understand the whole HJR 192. Taxes are unconstitutional. Quit letting them name you as a resident. Go into the private. Get your trust done. Get it all private. Get it all into the private. And quit playing taxes, folks. Tell them to kick rocks. All right. One of them called me the other day, asked me a question. I said, well, do you know the answer to the question that you just asked me? No, that's why we asked you the question. Well, call me when you do, and hung up. Don't play their games, folks. Don't play their games. I already told them through formal writing. I do not communicate except through email or a certified letter with them. No other way is acceptable. I set the terms. They don't. Stop letting them think they rule over you. That's right. I haven't filed taxes in 5 or 6 years. That's exactly right. The other thing is that, we dealt with nuclear when it comes to this war stuff. We dealt with nuclear back in the late 80s and early 90s, folks. Back to the Future, 88, right? 88 miles per hour. There is no nuclear weapon on the planet. There's nuclear energy. There's no nuclear weapons on the planet. It's been proven over and over and over again. They already showed you they couldn't even make stuff like Hiroshima happen except through Hollywood. What they haven't showed you and what they're going to have to show you is that they got these DEW weapons. They've got advanced technologies that they've reverse engineered, and that they've quickly are losing control over all of that as well. What has been stolen from the earth is being returned to the earth. Mother Nature is getting hers. Right on, Big Mama, right? And what does Big Mama do when she gets her stuff returned? She takes care of her people. We've already won. Stop playing their game. The more of us that disconnect, the less they have to carry on with the rigmarole like they are in the shit show that we see out there each and every day. And we're going to break it down for you. But right now, I really want to show you what Sean Nolan did with Inspired 2 days ago. Nothing is real anymore is the name of it, and that's the plan. Because nothing is real right now. All right? There's millions of different angles and points of view and opinions. I can tell you what, a lot of these people, these MAGA people especially, nothing against them. God love them. All right? They're standing in their truth, so they think, or they're pretending to be asleep. One. But if you don't have the indigenous conversation in this whole history lesson and rebirth, then you are still playing spy games, and you're going to be lost in the crowd. You're going to be lost in the crowd. There's nothing we can do for you until you wake up to that. Till you figure out that Donald Trump is the president of the corporation that is to be liquidated and collapsed, along with the fiat dollar and it's all its money that goes along with it, including digital. None of it, it's all temporary, folks. Whatever they do at this point moving forward is very temporary. All right, the QFS, we've argued for months with people about the QFS, the quantum financial system. Oh my God, get yours today. No, it's a con. NUMA will be the system a lot of people work off of through sovereign banks. There's a lot being said about sovereign citizens before I start this video too. It's an oxymoron, folks. You can't be a sovereign citizen. No way, shape, or form. It does not work. Learn a little bit about the law. Learn just a little bit about the law and you'll understand it. Learn a little bit about your taxes. Your income and wages are two different things. Income is something that you make off of a investment. Wages is something you make off of trading skill set or hours for dollars, right? No, temporary won't be years just like this plan, Carolyn. We have to stop thinking doom and gloom. That's exactly right. Truth be told, citizens just means slave. So you're now a sovereign slave, right? That doesn't make no sense. And people going up into the court systems claiming to be sovereign citizens are getting themselves slayed left and right. we have learned a lot, and we have a lot left to learn. You know, I'm still struggling with Abraham Lincoln was a copper skin colored man, and George Washington was actually one of them damn Rex 84 people. What's his damn name? Mrs. Sheepdog, Weisberg or something like that. They took the guy out from Barbados, which is also a copper skin colored man, and put in this white trash from the Illuminati, right? What's his name, Mr. Sheepdog?
Adam Weishaupt.
I Adam Weishaupt. There you go. Thank you.
George Bush. George Washington and Albert Pike all rolled into one.
Yeah.
It's the same person.
Yep, there you go.
Pike, Weishaupt, Washington.
So here we are discovering real history, real truth, still questioning everything and everyone. Okay, if you're not questioning even me, then you need to take a serious look at what part of the journey you're missing out on. All right, question everything. Okay, but it's not up to me to give you the receipts after I've already done it several times. It's up to you to go get them for yourself. It will never mean anything to you until you do. Empress Chakra River has been sharing her receipts for years. 30 years she's been doing this. Taj Tariq Bey, 50 years she's been doing this. He's been doing this. Absolutely. Question everything. Chief Warhorse, who's a ball of fire, been doing this for 30 years. These people never stop fighting for their rights and their land that have been stolen from them. It's not even really their land. They'll be the first one to admit to you. They will tell you that they were the first stewards of the land, and that it is godly that they were chosen to be so. And the mitochondrial birthright is proof of that. How we've transitioned from a patriarch to a matriarch. All these patriarchs need to get the hell out of the way. They're holding up progress, trying to maintain a narrative that no longer can be maintained. It's collapsing in on itself. Yeah, it just takes an open mind. That's absolutely right. Just takes an open mind. So if you're going to stay caught up in the nuclear war that's tentatively happening with Iran, Israel trying to drag the United States into it, and Trump running his mouth by reading the script, okay, you'll continue to watch the de facto government and its leaders drag you down a path that's going to lead you to nowhere, except for their victory and your demise. Promise you. The work that Trump was doing to help the indigenous people has already been done. He's playing both sides of the fence because that's where Scottish Rite Mason heritage comes from. They've always played both sides of the fence.
Yeah, it's just a staged. It's just a staged performance.
Yes, all it is a stage performance. Exactly right. Let's see, Delphine. Let me look and see what you said. Miss Delphine says she talks too much. She don't talk too much, Miss Delphine. I don't know who told you that. Delphine, Delphine, I'm not real sure about. I mean, we're all experiencing. You sound like you got an excessive amount of aircraft flying over your area where you live now. It's like every 15 minutes, she says. And then you hear it through the night. You can see them because of it being so much overcast. You can't see them, but you definitely can hear them. I know before you said they were spraying good stuff, but when you do see them on those rare occasions, they are not spraying. Are they taking people places? What did they have? They told you anything to do anything. Do you know anything? I don't know what they would be transporting back and forth at this point. Um, I really don't. Um, I know that we shouldn't be worried about it. We shouldn't be worried about it. And we are absolutely heading in the right direction. It's not fun to watch when they're playing it out on the stage the way they are, but we are absolutely heading in the right direction. Stop getting caught up in the war narrative. The war was called to an end in November by Chief Pontiac and Empress Rarebird during the Accord, right? Oral tradition. All right, so I'm going to address this one last time. Trump. So, Mike, so you was on the Trump train. So now you guys against the Trump movement. Just curious, confused. All right, so you're not curious and you're not confused. And I appreciate you trying to make it, as peaceful as possible. But if we were on the Trump train and we're not on the Trump train, why does that have to mean we're against Trump? Which we don't support Trump. Okay, we don't. Because we figured it out. He's part of the corporation, folks. He works for the corporation. He works for the corporation. What about all this stuff with King Smarty? If y'all listen to King Smarty, y'all really need to take a step back and question yourself for listening to crap like that. King Smarty, that's the biggest ego, one of the biggest egos out there.
Yeah, your ego is not your amigo.
That's exactly right. Trump is the liquidator. Exactly. No need to be on the train that's taking it all down anymore. Everything was great when we were on the train. We learned a lot through those years. But it's all over, folks. It's over. The corporation is no longer serving the people. It will not serve the people. It will not save the people. It will absolutely destroy as many of us as we let them on their way out. That's the way it works. Why would I want to be on that side? So as we learned, we made course corrections. Nothing against Trump. That ain't even the real Trump. It's not even the real Trump in playing his character. He's reading from a script, but he has no power. He has no power.
Central casting.
Exactly. So Let's listen to Jean-Claude for a few minutes as we dive deeper into tonight's show. All right. Nothing is real anymore, and that's the plan.
The world would probably be a better place without them.
First off, Antonio Brown did not plow my wife. Okay. It was an industry standard rear entry, so it doesn't count as cheating.
The No Kings protests, they were a total success. Of course, we planned them.
Cat's out of the bag, folks. Being part of a Karl Marx Mental Health Peer Alliance, or whatever they call it, their gay little groups, that's not friendship, that's a cult.
Respectfully, who gives a shit about Mexican food? Sure, it tastes good, but every dish is the exact same thing.
We are a nation of immigrants, and America is an idea. Sure, there are a couple of burned cars and people are waving other countries' flags, but that's LA. That's what LA is about.
Anyway, happy No King's Day to the haters and the losers. Plenty of losers out there today with the weirdest bodies you've ever seen in your entire life. My goodness.
I said to him, President Trump, these people might be fat, disgusting weirdos.
Yeah, I don't want to say that, but yeah.
We shouldn't give up on them completely. Plus, they're NPCs.
Today, I'd like to pivot and discuss autism, not the clinical variety, but the weaponized kind. We love our autists, folks. Trains, planes, and automobiles. They love data, they love facts, they love patterns, and maybe some dino nuggets from time to time. Dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, very tasty.
Dance like nobody's watching, love like you've never been hurt, and skateboard like your dad isn't in prison.
But the fact of the matter is that our socially awkward heroes, they're the last line of defense against our country descending towards civil war. Today, find someone with autism, take them out for a round of mini golf and maybe some laser tag, bit of an afternoon double dipsy doodle. Make a day out of it, and you'll see what I mean.
This is wild. I'm AI generated by VO3. Nothing is real anymore.
In a world flooded with paper promises, gold has been a consistent truth. It's held its value for thousands of years, and today, with everything shifting, the demand for gold is climbing fast. The BRICS nations are now signaling plans for a basket of gold-backed currencies, challenging the dominance of fiat money worldwide. That's why I think Opawika Explorations is a company that should be on your radar. They're exploring for high-grade gold in Quebec's legendary Abitibi Gold Belt, one of the most productive gold regions on Earth. Their properties are surrounded by some of the biggest gold mines in Canada, and right now they're launching a tremendous new exploration program, a major step in unlocking their potential. Listen, no one can predict the future, but these are the kinds of projects that have built real wealth when the timing aligned. If you're someone who believes in the timeless value of gold and sees where the monetary system is heading, Opawika, trading on the OTC market under ticker OPWEF at just 11 cents per share, is worth looking into. You can learn more at the link down below. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Friday, June 20th, 2025 in the Matrix, and we're going out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. Thank you for joining us again on X, Rumble, and YouTube. Thanks for being in the live chat. Thank you for your contributions and for being here with us. It most certainly is a very, very strange time in our shared story here. And we are discovering every day more and more just how unreal our shared reality has become. Now, if you've seen the intro, these were AI created clips. And if you look at an entire clip and the way that they're created, you can probably still tell that they were. But if you just hear little snippets, it is almost becoming impossible for people to realize this. It is shattering something that um, is splintering our society, which is a shared perception of certain things. And just a couple days ago, a friend of ours sent us an email and said she had reached out to 6 people she knows in Israel and was inquiring about their well-being because of the situation, the bombings and all that, and the attacks. And out of the 6 people, 5 said there's nothing going on, like where they are, nothing. They're going about their lives as usual. Now the government is sending out sort of there's something about I think a go bag and like a backpack that people have and evacuation plans, but 5 out of the 6 were living a completely normal life. And mind you, Israel is not a humongous nation, and the 6th person, they were being evacuated, and it begs the question: how much of what we're seeing and what we're hearing is actually unfolding? And it is incredibly dangerous to even make an assessment of that, because if you say it's all fake, you might be discounting the real horrors and the real suffering that is happening. But if you believe everything at face value, you might be falling for the huge psyops that are unfolding every day. So we are facing a problem that previous generations have also had, but not nearly as big. Ever since the advent of mass media, mass dissemination of information at the same time, which really the first tool in the history that we can verify and remember was the radio. The radio was the first thing where leaders.
This is the viral warm water trick that took me from 178 to 126 in just a few weeks.
And then of course companies and whoever could broadly disseminate a message to hundreds of thousands, millions of people without those people being able to verify what they were hearing or verify the validity of it. They had to trust it. And then of course television was sort of the same thing. But mind you, at least as far as we know, all of these things had to be created. And when it came to television, we all knew that, not we all knew, but we all know now that a lot of the news that we've watched in the 20th century was fabricated, taken out of context, or whatever. But at least that had to be created. It had to be an enormous amount of effort put into it. You had to have crews and script writers, and remember Wag the Dog, the movie, with Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman. And if you don't know the plot of that movie, it's a really good one to watch. It's from the 90s, so you can see how this idea of creating events or fabricating events that aren't real has been around forever. But what has been unleashed with AI, humanity's sleepwalking, completely sleepwalking when it comes to this. And I'm shocked. Just in recent days, I've read the first studies that have come out of people that use AI frequently to write and create copy for them, or write articles for them, or whatever, and how their brain function has gone down in just 3 months of doing that. How if they had AI create something for them, they could literally not retain any of that information after just a few short minutes. And they were looking at the brains and how devastating this is. Now, this is talking about people who are adults now, who grew up writing, who grew up imagining, who grew up learning how to write essays and read something and comprehend the information and then recite it again. The generation that is now coming up with AI, it's not going through that. It's never even developing those skills anymore. And so you already have a generation that will be void of any discernment and also not interested in discernment. It doesn't matter to them. The veil between what we call shared reality, which is a shared or similar perception of certain shared facts that we all see in the world and in the world around us. They are not interested in that anymore. What they're interested in is only their own experience and making it as comfortable as possible. Facts and truth matter less and less. The bending things so that they fit their own perception better. That's what this is really about. But AI is becoming so sophisticated, and we're looking at things that most people are not discussing. So, like I said, we've lost a plot of shared reality. What does that mean? It means that now, with the vast majority of people getting all their information from not a TV screen anymore, but now the internet screen, of course, every person has a slightly and some very different curation of reality. Algorithms are deciding what you see based on what they assume you will consume. And when you go to any social media site, when you go to any search machine, search engine, or anything like that, there are no two interfaces, there are no two feeds that look the same. So even if you and I were to sign up for a new account, let's say on the X platform, formerly Twitter, and let's say that we would follow the exact same people and we arrive to them in the same order, 2 days from now, our feed will look different based on how long we look at a post, based on whether we scroll back or whether we read it again. Apps like TikTok are measuring your eye movements and analyzing them and basing their suggestions on that. And then you have AI curated and created videos that are sandwiched between real ones, and that's going to happen more and more and more until those lines completely blur. Now, here's the really, really sad part of what I'm seeing is that people are using these tools like Veo 3, which is Google's. This is sort of that was the latest leap. It's probably one of the most sophisticated tools that the public has access to now. And what people are using it for is extremely sad, as a reflection of consciousness, I would say. You could use it to show positive, beautiful visions or what could be possible, but people are using it for the dumbest shit. And then, of course, they're using similar tools that actually allow it, because the big ones don't allow this, but similar tools, they're using it to make politicians and public figures say things that they never said. And sooner rather than later, this is going to cause something big. It's going to cause something catastrophic. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a psychic to see this. This is what's going to happen sooner or later. One of these sophisticated fakes is going to cause something very, very harmful in the real world. And it's probably going to be the catalyst for big restrictions on the internet, digital ID requirements, and stuff like that. But what I'm really more concerned about than even that, because that's what we knew a long time ago. We knew those things were coming to the internet. We knew that's where they wanted to bring everyone. What we couldn't imagine was how AI was going to insert itself into it and how impactful AI was going to get in a very short period of time. I couldn't imagine it. I had an idea, but I simply couldn't imagine what was coming. So we're now dealing with so much artificiality that we have to assume that most of the things that we see on the internet aren't true anymore, are taken out of context, are changed, again, it is fragmenting and shattering our shared perception of reality. And what that does is also it hurts our souls, because when we go and step out into the world and we have conversations, there's less and less and less that we can agree on, because we all have a different curation of our digital reality as it is being presented to us. Now, to those generations who've been around for longer, it's going to be much easier to step out of it and go, I'm not playing. But mainstream society is sleepwalking into a complete catastrophe. And you know, this is not an exaggeration. And I've said this before. Christine and I have we watched a British series, a drama series called The Capture, which was created in the late 2010s, I believe, up to 2020. I would encourage everyone to watch that show. It is extremely eye-opening as to how this was used, because, you know, these shows are produced for a reason, and how we're sure this is being used only in a much more sophisticated way. So, you know, we are in a pretty problematic place, I would say. Excuse me, I lost my mouse here. And like I said, if this is what is available to the public, and I would encourage you at least give some of these tools enough of a try so that you get an idea of how they work. And this is, you know, when people say, I don't want to have anything to do with it, I don't want to have anything to do with AI, that is an illusion. You are right here on an AI platform. YouTube is completely AI run. It's run by AI-driven algorithms. It's analyzing what you're watching, how long you're watching it, what you're clicking, what you're commenting, what your name is, everything, and it is curating it for you. So you are interacting with it, and you know that is what it is. But I would encourage everyone to be a researcher, and a researcher has to come from a place of natural curiosity and balance. A researcher has to be balanced first, so they can, as objectively as possible, do their work. And so when you go and test these AI tools, the video tools, the photo tools, the text creation tools, and whatnot, see how they operate. Observe, find the patterns, see the weak spots, see how they are different, or what makes them different from human created things. See how an AI photograph is different from a human made photograph. A video, learn the patterns and the observation points, because we're going to need that. I not predict, I know that we have had multiple mainstream psyops run completely on AI, where 90% of the footage that we saw about an event was AI created and was played out over the news media. And those were events that captured the attention of most people in a nation or even the world for a couple of days. And those were test runs to see how the people would react, whether they would spot it, whether it would cause some upheaval. And these things have been happening for a while. So in the event of an emergency, or an emergency that they want to create, they have everything ready. I fully assume that a good portion of the 2020-21 events were AI fabricated. And remember, we had far less knowledge back then. We knew about CGI, which is sort of the old school version of all of that. But we had far less knowledge of what was possible. We had assumptions, but we didn't have the proof because we didn't have the tools yet. The world has shifted dramatically since the introduction of stuff like ChatGPT and, Mid-Journey and the graphic creation tools, video and photo. It's like the world has changed more in the last 2-3 years than it has probably changed in the last 30, 40, 50 years before that. It's incredible in, unfortunately, not the best possible of ways. But think if you have a combination of the tools at hand, and like I say, When we look at the best tools that we can access, you have to assume that what the governments, the intelligence services, the military has, that these are 1,000, 10,000 times better. Meaning, you can't tell. You can't tell that it's fake. So now you have the tools that they have, and you have a population that is already overwhelmed, that is already overstimulated, that is already constantly hit with dopamine infusing content that does never stop. It just scrolls, never stops, and thinks and analyzes. And it is a recipe for psychological operations that were never possible before in this way. And as far as I can see, sort of as anticipated, the powers that be are using these tools exactly as we predicted they would, in the worst possible way. I mean, you have to know that most of these folks are bottom feeders. They are very low consciousness levels, very egotistically driven, using every tool to their advantage. No problem with lying, no problem with deceiving. That's who most of these folks, unfortunately, are. Not all of them, but most of them. And so we're seeing this unfold, and we have to know it. We have to be able to discern it. And there are only a few viable solutions for people who do not wish to be a part of this. History is not just being rewritten. History is being written in real time. And with the next few steps that are being taken in the technological realm, it will be that much harder to go back and correct things once they are established. So here are the things that the media isn't really talking about. Here are the things that the big influencers in the podcast sphere, in the quote unquote alternative media, are not touching. They're using it. They are amused by it. They are, without disclaimer, sharing it. I've seen now multiple times that the big names like Alex Jones are just sharing AI created clips without even hinting at it being AI, which is, to me, troublesome, very worrisome, because it's like the frog in water, right? It's the temperature is being turned up a little bit all the time, and people are getting accustomed to it. So the implications are that we see protest footage from countries that we have no connections to. Let's say, I don't know, Tajikistan. Okay, who knows somebody in Tajikistan? Like, I don't know anyone in Tajikistan. So chances are, if we see big protests from there, and some big atrocity or something big has happened, that the media presents it, the public accepts it, and the narrative is written. Now, how easy would it be to fake a huge violent protest in a country nobody knows anyone in? And some people might know, but most of the people don't. They wouldn't even be able to find it on a map, know who their political leadership is, or anything else like that. But it would create an atmosphere, if that atmosphere is wanted. And it's so easy to create. This was possible before AI, but now you can create the emotional moments without limits. At all times, 24/7, you can flood the TikTok sphere of leaked footage and all of the above. And this is happening. And we are coming to the point where we can no longer verify things unless we are there. In my experience, and I've been working with the media, mainstream media, since I was about 8-9 years old. I grew up being on stage and being in sports, and all the stage stuff, all the music stuff and everything was always connected with media. And I've done God knows how many interviews. And once I got a little older, I I did something that journalists didn't like, but I had them send me a copy of their article before it went out. And I said, I'm not for me to spin whatever you wrote, but just to check the facts. And even though I did this, once something was printed, I haven't experienced a single time where the media got the facts right, even though I proofread it and I corrected it, and they still got it wrong when it went into print. So there's already this factor that is way before AI, right? That there's this huge gap between what is happening in the world and the spin or the way that is being reported. But now we have to slowly but surely start assuming that everything that we see, we have to first doubt it. We have to first doubt that it's even real. I mean, take the Iran-Israel situation. Like I just said. So our friend reached out to 6 people she knows in Israel, 5 of which have said, we see it on the TV. And they literally said, I think it's happening more on the TV than anything else. So 5 of them are living completely normal lives. And 1 was evacuated into a shelter, but still didn't report about actual bombings. I'm not saying it isn't happening, but how are we to verify those things when you and I, if we take an hour can create clips with AI software that look like real bombings, that look like real attacks? How in the world can we trust that? And we can't. And there's no easy answer to this. There's no, hey, John, what's the solution? There is no solution to this. We're losing the plot on our shared reality. That's just a fact. Something that we have to be willing to accept because it is a fact. And it's happening so fast that our brains and our ability to digest this information and establish strategies, it's not there. We have to deal with things on such a fast pace that our brains can't compute. They can't. It is probably one of the biggest problems that we have ever faced. And this is where we stand. This is where we are in this. It is creating a psychosis. It is creating such false perceptions. I'll give you another example. There's something unfolding that I'm researching right now. It's called the Great Noticing. And it is only one of a few big hate events that is happening on the internet right now. First, I will tell you that I've seen an uptick, an enormous uptick of the most offensive and horrible and vile hatred, racism, just hatred against groups of people that I've in my lifetime that I'm observing on the X platform right now. I mean, accounts with huge followings, and they're literally full-on hate against a certain group of people, whether it's based on the color of their skin or their religion or their ethnicity. And when I go and when I check out these accounts and when I look at what's unfolding there, yes, there are real haters on there, but for the most part, it is a curated event. It's like a curated internet event. It's an AI-created event that is supposed to bring about an atmosphere of extreme division, of extreme hostility. And here's where the psychosis comes in. You know, I believe to remember a time not too long ago, maybe 8-9 years ago, where let's just say racism in America didn't feel like it was all that big of a problem, all that big of a deal. I just, in my daily experience, I really didn't see it. And, you know, we would go into parts of town that are, you know, for example, where there's a lot of Hispanics, or where there's a lot of, you know, I don't know, Egyptians, Middle Eastern. And it just, I didn't feel an atmosphere of racism. In recent years online, it has flared up like crazy. So I think it is actually birthed on the screens, and it is then being projected onto our realities. Again, because people see this. They watch this on their TikToks, on their Instagrams, and they think this is what's happening. And so they are being divided once more into groups. Not to say that there isn't real racism. I'm just saying it seems to have become a far smaller problem than it maybe used to be. And we're having these cognitive dissonance events constantly now, where we don't know what is real anymore. And that is exactly what is wanted, because it creates confusion, insecurity, passivity. You just want to step back. You just want to step out of it. You don't want to get involved in it. That's exactly what's supposed to happen for people with a pure and good heart. And for everyone else, they're supposed to scream and shout and be upset about something, be offended. And boy, is AI being used in a worst possible way to do that. So, as always, there is no visible solution to me on the AI front. This is not going away, folks. This is not even close to going away. This is going to get way worse. That's the momentum as it is unfolding. And anyone who says otherwise, I would love to see what you base it on, other than unicorns and rainbows, because it's so fast. I didn't even know that it was possible to create tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of websites in such a short period of time that would provide such a variety of AI tools. But it's apparently a very sophisticated rollout, and it's happening exactly as I thought it would, where AI doesn't come through the government door. It doesn't come through surveillance and control. It comes through convenience and comfort, and how to make money faster, how to outsource all your tasks to AI. It comes through that, like always. And there is currently no visible path. But if you know this, if you see this, you can make different choices. And like I've said before, I believe that our time together, all of our time on what we might call mainstream internet, mainstream platform, maybe a few more years, but it is coming to an end. Either we won't be able to tolerate what's happening there any longer, or we won't be tolerated there any longer. It's one of the two, and I assume it probably will be both. So the solutions are that we have to come back to the human-to-human contact. You know, I will say that I appreciate the ability to.
Hi, Mr. Wonderful here. You know, I don't waste time, and I definitely don't waste money. I joined Start Engine as a strategic advisor and
make a video call and call my folks, and talk to people on the other side of the world and see them. I know it is mimicking telepathic capability that we all have, but for the time being, I appreciate that tool. But it doesn't replace being together. It doesn't replace sharing space. It, as woo-woo as this sounds, but it doesn't replace feeling each other's aura. It doesn't replace giving a hug and receiving a hug. And so the revolutionary act is to organize gatherings, bring people together for picnics, cook together, watch the stars at night, be somewhere out where it's less light pollution, and do things together as human beings, have real conversations. And also, while these conversations are happening, don't judge each other so harshly. Not everybody will have the same knowledge base as you. Not everybody will see things exactly the same thing. But if people are interested in community, cherish that, foster that. That's what is needed. That's the counter revolution. Be in nature, in your bare feet if you can. Touch things that are natural to us in this realm. We've discussed at length that this is also somewhat relative, but nobody can tell me that it feels better to be in a concrete box somewhere in a huge city on the 70th floor compared to have your feet in the grass and hear the birds sing. It's just, I don't think it ever compares. Screens are already showing us illusions, but I'm still real. I'm still real coming to you here. There's nothing AI about me. But I will say that I can't guarantee that at one point, what I say into this microphone here won't be the same thing that comes out of your speakers. I can't say that because the technology is there to make it happen in real time. And if somebody was invested enough, it would be possible. And I can't discount that. I can't just say, oh, this probably won't happen here. It might. It might not be me, but it might be Joe Rogan or whoever reaches a lot of people. And to be fully reliant on that is a very, very dangerous thing. As cliche as it sounds, but choose presence over pixels, my friends, wherever and whenever you can. I think this is extremely important. We've been advocating for people to come together. And if it's just for a coffee chat, I mean, pick a coffee place or someone's house, get together, have a cup of coffee or tea and chat and talk and share. And it almost makes me sad when people reach out and say, how do I connect with others? Well, I think it's part of our very fundamental human capabilities that we can easily connect to others, that we can establish a connection. And it's as easy as starting to talk to someone. Trust in the power of resonance, that what you send out truly does affect others and affects the right people, and come to real conversations. Specifically after the isolation of 2020 and 2021, there were two kinds of experiences that people had. Number one, those who got so accustomed to just the screen contacts, they became even more isolated from society, had even bigger barriers when it came to actually connecting with people in real life. And then there were the others who said, those are the worst 2 years of my life because there was so little connection. And they were going into full-on, much more community, started book clubs, gardening clubs, whatever, more people, more community, more groups, more togetherness. Like I said, we have to establish alternative ways, parallel ways. AI is not going anywhere. This is only going to get more for the time being. All right. Well, if there are any questions, we're going to open this for a short Q&A here because we got a lot of emails and people have questions about this upcoming retreat call after awakening. But anything that you're interested in asking, this is an open Q&A. You can ask anything. I might not answer everything, but if you have questions, please put them in all caps. That is a beautiful question. Right now, no, we don't. We used to be on horseback every single day for years. And specifically with this work, over the years, we thought about it, having horses, and I'm sure that will be in our future again. But right now, horses are such beautiful and to me deeply spiritual animals, and they need contact every day. They need contact with their person, their people. And when your time resources are as limited as ours are in this regard, it's not fair. It's I don't think it's fair. So, but in the very near future, I hope we'll have some pictures to share. Is there a hack to turn the AI on our devices off? Yeah, turn your device off. And even then, the truth about what we're learning really about AI is, I think this is being reverse engineered. So there is the AI that we can sort of see in the software, in the platforms, and then there's the AI we can't see. And that one I don't want to talk about right now because it's too far out right now. But yes, you can turn off the devices. You can't turn it off on your device because they're all AI driven now. So turn it off, leave it at home, put it in a Faraday bag, and watch what happens when you're away from it for a few hours. Charlotte, I'm interested in how children remember so much up until around 7 years old. Any info on why that is? You know, you might have heard that, but children up until the age of 7 are in a completely different brainwave state. So basically, it's like it's almost like a hypnotized state of being. So their perception, their consciousness is in a completely different space. And so my working theory is that while we as adults are completely sort of encoded into this perception where we all can agree that we see this table and this chair, and I think the veil between dimensions and even spectrums of light the veil is thinner, and the spectrum of light, I would assume, for children in that brainwave state is bigger. So that's why they don't just remember things, but see things and sense things. And I think it's us who, or adults in general, for the most part, who discourage that. And so when a child is being discouraged from that, they lock it away. And then the second thing is, the older they get, 7, 8, their awareness moves up into a different brainwave state, and then their perception sort of gets locked in more. Can you give me your opinion about why they're covering up the sun? What is the reason behind this craziness? Well, one of the greatest deficiencies that most humans already have is vitamin D deficiency. And even if you don't want to call it vitamin D, but we all need light. What we eat from plants and animals is the energy generated by light, by the sunlight. So that is the energy, right? And when we have less access to it, the number one thing that happens is that we fall into physical, spiritual, mental deficiencies. So that's one big thing. And you study the psychological and physiological effects on people that live in regions with polar night, where for months on end there's only night. It never gets light, on the poles. And study what it does to them. Study the tremendous potential for addiction, sickness, and whatnot, even violence, depression. So that's one big thing. Another big thing is that there's something happening above that cloud cover, I think, that we're not supposed to see. A lot of the times there's something happening above there. That's another reason. Another reason is that they are obviously, and there's now no doubt in my mind anymore, they're terraforming, they're changing the makeup of this place, and they are making it, I think, more suitable for human 2.0 or human 3.0 or human Homos roboticus, or even an altogether different species. So I think there's a terraforming going on. And there is, of course, the case of engineered climate and weather changes. So it's a cascade of things that are happening in according to my research. What do you
All right. So as you can see, it was an in-depth conversation on AI. We've had the guy from Middle Nation come on and tell you all about AI as well, from his perspective. Guys, the biggest thing to remember is that AI is only going to be as useful as the person who is putting in that it is being putting data into it, whether it be through your wearables, okay, like Sabrina Wallace talks about, and unbeknownst to you through police state activity, or in your use of it, your actual use of it. We've got people who use Chat GPT, and they tell them, "Hey, you're lying to me. That's not the truth." And AI will absolutely correct itself. So don't let the AI conversation run wild in your imagination because you know very little, or you're just going to succumb to the fear. It has a place. It's been around long before we were, and it'll be around long after we are. With that being said, the human touch was talked about in there, right? Nothing will ever replace the hug, the smile, the handshake, the picnic, and the family reunion, or the gathering for the greater good of a community, or even humanity. Nothing will ever replace that. Nothing. With that being said, that's my spiel for tonight, Sheepdog. With that, I yield.
Thank you, Mike. Well, I just want to piggyback off that a little bit. I'm going to read how this is really just an attack on the consciousness of the people with all this division and the chaos that we're seeing on TV, right? So the Israel and Iran, they're not at war. This is all part of their plan to enslave the human consciousness. It is a show. It is a staged performance. Remember, all reality is created out of order, out of chaos. This is how you create reality. Chaos represents the mind, the infinite potential, endless thoughts and ideas. Order represents action. Taking action from the chaos is how you shape the world. This is the formula of creation. The elites understand this, but they use it in a dark and twisted way. They create chaos in people's minds. They fill the collective with fear, confusion, division, and then they offer a solution that leaves people exactly where they want them to go. This war is not a war. It is the chaos. It is the psychological storm that they are using to break down the minds of the masses. Through that chaos, they will create order. Their order. Their order, not yours. And this could lead to a financial crash, a collapse of markets, a global reset. And that will be the problem that they caused. And when people cry out for help, they will offer the solution, problem, reaction, solution, right? But that solution will serve their agenda. Problem, reaction, solution, order out of chaos. So keep this in mind. This is now the problem. You will see the solution appear in the coming months, right? The riots are manufactured chaos. The pandemics are manufactured chaos. Wars are manufactured chaos. Geoengineering is manufactured chaos. This world is ruled by chaos magic so that you'll beg for order, their order. Resist the urge to emotionally react, like Mike was saying. Staying calm is the best defense right now, right? 100%. Wait. So I told people to give it, once you hear a major announcement where everybody's calling you and telling you about it, you need to give it at least 3 or 4 days before you react any kind of emotional way to some stuff that they just put right across the TV screen. I mean, I wasn't even watching the news this weekend, and I had family members calling me, telling me what was going on. People that I can't even wake up, they're asleep, but they know that there was a bombing, right? And I'm like, okay. Then you see it for what it is, right? So give it a few days, let everything come out, and then you can start figuring out, seeing the bigger picture. But reacting on the first thing, just like COVID, when people reacted to the first case of COVID, that's what people are doing with this Iran situation.
Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon. Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself.
The best place to hide the truth is in plain sight. This scene in The Matrix is showing you we live in a mental universe. The world outside you is not fixed, shaped and transformed by the mind. Look around you. Every object you see was a thought. Then it came into a physical reality. We think it, we imagine it, the astral plane, we give energy to it, we take action upon it. The physical world is a shadow of a higher dimension of thought. While most people are stuck in the matrix, reacting to the external world outside them, they're just creating a cycle of negative manifestation. Reacting to the world will not get you anything. Your thoughts and emotions and actions all need to be commands to shape the world. Mind manipulates matter. They do not want you to know that consciousness and matter are directly linked. Consciousness holds the power of a matter.
And there we go. So don't get emotionally caught up in the physical.
Or you'll create that world.
Or you'll create that world. So we stay calm, and then we just look at the facts, right? And we see, you know, what's really going on in all the chaos. That's all you could really do. Stop. You also need to keep in mind that the propaganda arm of the military-industrial complex is the mainstream media. Smith-Mundt Act 2012 allows it. It's all legal to run propaganda on you. So you think you're being informed, but you're being manipulated psychologically.
And like you said, with the AI, it's so good now that, well, they've probably been doing it for a while, but you won't be able to tell what's real. We used to, right now you can't tell what's real and what's not. So
Right. So the same people that ran the scamdemic on us is the same people running all this other stuff on us today with this bomb in Iran narrative coming from the Pentagon. But here's Matt Gaetz real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and play this. A little word from Matt Gaetz.
If the world is interested in a secret nuclear program in the Middle East, there is a country that won't allow any international inspectors. Israel. Israel has a nuclear weapon. Did you know that? I do. They allow no inspections. They are fully secretive and clandestine about it. And the Americans are fully aware. You know what? I don't even blame Israel for this. If they want to develop a nuclear weapon, if they had the blessing to do so secretly, I'm not in judgment of that. But to drag the world into a regime change war over secret nuclear weapons, when you have secret nuclear weapons, is a bit hypocritical.
There we go. That's all we got to do. That's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to keep it moving forward. I got the fact sheet from the Center of Arms Control and Non-Proliferation on who has what. And it has Israel's nuclear inventory right here, fact sheet. It goes down. What all they have. Air, sea, land. How many? 90 at least, according to this document. But we'll keep it moving. Again, they're playing out the World War III agenda, the weapons of mass destruction lie narrative that got us into the Iraqi war, right? After 9/11, the false flag, because they were trying to get into Iraq. They tried it in 92. Operation Desert Storm. So we're seeing the past, the future proves the past proves the future, however you want to say it. It's all being played out just the same as if Bush never left office. Some people are calling Trump George W. Trump, just based off of what moves he's making, and the plan to attack Iran has been in the works for decades via Netanyahu. So that's they will all work on the same aisle side, all of them.
They're all just showing you who they are.
Right.
At a larger scale.
But I got one more thing right here and I'll be done. What?
Here's 20 of the most savage, fact-based, soul-crushing lines. No fluff, just pure etheric justice for these badge-wearing mercenaries. Number 1, you're not law enforcement. You're contract collectors and cosplay, harassing sovereigns like bounty hunters from corporate courts. Number 2, you swore an oath to the Constitution but serve traffic tickets like it's communion. Your badge is a lie and your loyalty's for sale. Number 3, you arrest free men on the land, not for crimes, but for codes. And that makes you a domestic enemy, not a protector. Number 4, you're not peace officers. You're revenue agents for a bankrupt system that feeds off fear and control. Number 5, every time you cuff a traveler for no license, you declare war on the very freedom you swore to defend. Number 6, your squad car ain't a chariot of justice. It's a rolling billboard for tyranny dressed up in blue. Number 7, you're not enforcing law, you're enforcing policy, and policy ain't law unless we consent, which we never did. Number 8, your badge don't grant you authority, it exposes your fraud. The people are the authority, not some city charter. Number 9, qualified immunity. That's just your hall pass for oppression. You're scared of accountability because you know you're wrong. Number 10, you show up to a peaceful man's home with guns drawn like stormtroopers pretending it's about safety. It's terrorism with paperwork. Number 11, a real hero defends the weak. You extort them with citations, and when they resist, you beat them down. That's not service, that's cowardice. Number 12, every ticket you write, every unlawful arrest you make, you break your oath and spit on the Bill of Rights. Number 13, you're not stopping crime, you're inventing it to keep your pensions fat and your departments bloated. Number 14, you call us sovereign citizens like it's an insult. No, that's just protection from a corporate employee with a delusion of power. Number 15, if tyranny ever had a uniform, it would be yours. Shiny boots, weaponized ego, and a manual of statutes you don't even understand. 16, you enforce the law like a robot, but ignore the Constitution like it's optional. That's why the people are rising. Number 17, you don't keep the peace, you disturb it, escalate it, and blame it on us when you crack skulls to keep quotas. Number 18, the system. The system is collapsing under its own corruption. Number 19. Every time you enforce unlawful orders, you forfeit your honor and build your legacy in shame. Number 20. And when judgment comes, and it's coming, no badge, no rank, no corruption, union will protect you from the truth. Man, couldn't we just keep going with that? Anyways, 20 of the most savage, fact-based, soul-crushing lines, no fluff, just pure etheric justice for these badge-wearing mercenaries. Hey, I love y'all. I'm the 903. Till next time, 903 out.
903 out. Which one are you talking about? This one? Is this with the JFK? All right. This is why Trump obeys Israel. Because keep in mind, it was Israel, according to the narrative, right?
Right.
Attacked Iran first, which initiated this whole process.
My plan to disband.
Which isn't justified. Nobody attacked us, right?
Right.
This guy right here attacked, according to the narrative, Iran. It's like the bully punching somebody, and then the bully calls on somebody else to come fight the guy they just punched.
Until the deep state and reclaim our democracy.
Right here we see Trump pushing in his chair.
My plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy. The deep state is real, and it's been around for a long time.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
This was an iconic moment in American culture. But what happened later that night at a private cocktail party in New York was far more consequential in shaping the course of American history. A shadowy figure, largely unnoticed to the public, found her way to the highest circles of power. Not Marilyn Monroe, but someone more sinister. Her story is one of three that we will explore that reveal the true nature of the deep state and why it supports Israel. Her story will come later. First, we will start with the father of the modern deep state. Before we dive deeper, a special thank you to our supporters on Patreon for making videos like this possible. Doing this work takes time, resources, and editorial independence. And we're only able to do that thanks to you guys, our community. So if you believe in what we're doing and want to be a part of it, you can join our Patreon. It's how we keep this channel running. And now back to the deep state. Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption. We will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. When people think of the deep state, they think CIA, and there's a reason for that. The CIA has a history of operating in the shadows without any oversight or accountability. And that is because of Allen Dulles, the most influential director of the CIA. His story doesn't only reveal the origins of the deep state, but also what makes it tick: big money. Before his time at the CIA, Allen Dulles was a Wall Street lawyer, a partner at Sullivan & Cromwell, the most powerful firm on Wall Street. Dulles is what they called back then as a blue blood, or an aristocrat. He came from the highest levels of New York society. There were 3 secretaries of state in his own family, including his own brother, John Foster Dulles. The CIA often recruited from this upper class, people who didn't think they were just serving America, people who thought they were America.
He saw himself and his elite group as the proprietors of American democracy, that democracy was too important to be left in the hands of mere people like you and me. And so his group, which encompassed very powerful people on Wall Street and in Washington, were the gatekeepers, the guardians of our democracy.
For Dulles, the CIA wasn't just an intelligence agency. It was his entitlement to rule by any means necessary. And at the heart of that was doing the bidding of big money, corporate power, and America's elite. To give you a sense of who we are dealing with, back when he was a Wall Street lawyer, Dulles would defy presidential directives and do business with Nazis in Germany just because it was good for the bottom line and his clients. That didn't change when he became head of the CIA. What Dulles celebrated as his biggest achievements were all done on behalf of Wall Street and corporate power, some even on behalf of his former clients.
Now, there are times when the United States government feels that the developments in another government is of a nature to imperil the safety and the security and the peace of the world, and ask the Central Intelligence Agency to be its agent in that particular situation.
The ancient kingdom of Persia, rich only in legend and undeveloped natural resources.
In 1953, the CIA orchestrated a coup in Iran against the democratically elected prime minister because he wanted to nationalize Iran's oil, directly challenging Western access to Iran's natural resources. Allen Dulles and the CIA didn't like that, so they replaced him with the Shah, a pro-Western dictator who was brutal and secured foreign access to Iran's oil. This wasn't an isolated incident. In 1954, the CIA conducted another coup, this time in Guatemala, on behalf of the United Fruit Company, a corporation Dulles used to represent during his time at Wall Street. The coup triggered decades of civil war and brutal military rule, all to benefit and protect corporate profits under the guise of anti-communism. Allen Dulles and the CIA then did the same thing in the Congo. When U.S. and Western mining interests were being threatened, they overthrew and assassinated Patrice Lumumba.
Comes back to Leopoldville a prisoner.
His crime? For wanting the people of Congo to benefit from their natural resources.
Mr. Dulles, I know you've heard this many times, but there are people who say that we, with regard to the CIA, are waging a secret war with an invisible government.
The CIA is one faction of the deep state. It's the shadowy arm that extends around the world to destabilize countries and exert dominance. So when we say deep state, people only think of the CIA and nothing else. But as we see with Dulles, there's no deep state without big money. It plays a fundamental role in shaping and directing the actions of American power behind closed doors. The definition of the deep state is a vast network of entrenched institutions and powerful individuals that control a country's policy, both inside and outside of government. And Allen Dulles was a bridge between both. He was the father of the modern deep state, until one day he overstepped. His final straw was Cuba. Then President John F. Kennedy fired Allen Dulles for misleading him over the Bay of Pigs invasion. As you can imagine, Dulles wasn't happy. He already hated JFK for wanting to limit the power of the deep state and for potentially wanting to shut down the CIA. And that is why it is believed, many years later, that the deep state, led by Allen Dulles, was responsible for assassinating JFK and covering it up.
Allen Dulles would never have acted on his own against the president, who he despised. He always acted on behalf of his wealthy and powerful clients, that he was backed by people who are very powerful in the national security state and on Wall Street, where he'd spent most of his career.
This was one of the most consequential moments in American history, and it sets the stage for our next character, a woman who was instrumental in paving the way for the deep state's support for Israel, and it all started shortly before JFK was killed. Arthur Krim, a powerful film executive and the head of the Democratic Party Finance Committee, was behind that JFK star-studded gala. Later that night, the Krims hosted an after-party at their home. In the Krims' living room, the Kennedys were surrounded by Hollywood's elite, politicians and financiers. But not everybody was enjoying the party. A quiet figure sat off to the side on a stairwell, alone, observing the scene from above. It was no other than Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson. Someone noticed him lurking on the stairwell, and shortly after joined it. And what started as a simple conversation soon turned into a close and very influential relationship with no other than Matilda Krim.
Climbed halfway up a set of stairs and sat down and was looking to the crowd from above. And I thought, this is not fair. You know, somebody should pay attention to the vice president. And I sat next to him on the stage. And we had the first conversation there. And that night, I admired him for his ability to stand back, you know, to let the Kennedys enjoy the evening and be the stars of the evening.
Matilda Krim is no ordinary socialite and has a very interesting history. As a student at the University of Geneva, she embraced the Zionist cause. She even converted to Judaism after marrying David Danon, a man exiled from Palestine for his ties to the Irgun, a violent terrorist organization that was operating in British-controlled Palestine. As the Palestinian Nakba was unfolding in 1948, Matilda Krim was running weapons smuggling operations for the Irgun in France. After divorcing Danon, she married Arthur Krim and moved to the US and quickly became one of the key players in American politics. Krims were more than just close friends with LBJ, they were amongst his closest allies. They often would vacation together and stay at each other's homes, and that's when the rumors started to swirl that Matilda Krim was LBJ's lover.
The fact that I spoke several languages and that I was a PhD. And that, you know, in his mind, I think, gave me a certain credit to start with. And then he was impressed by the fact that I lived in New York. I moved in the entertainment industry, you know, which to President Johnson was another world too, of elegance and sophistication. So the mix of all these things with me was considered very attractive to him.
Remember, Matilda Krim is a hardcore Zionist and a former member of the Irgun and was a part of Israel's influence network in the US, and she had a close relationship with the vice president. This was a Zionist strategy from the early days of the pro-Israel lobby. Get to politicians early in their careers, build personal relationships, influence their thinking, and even sometimes fund their campaigns.
Perfected and already an American idea of how to lobby. That is targeting politicians from an early stage of their career, making sure that in every walk of life they have a presence where there is even this modicum of potential that someone might influence the American policy towards Israel.
And so here we are to set the scene. JFK just got assassinated and LBJ became president. Matilda's personal relationship continued and shaped his views and thinking on Israel.
During his administration, I know that that he relied upon Arthur for advice on a good many things. Yeah. But I think that in addition to that, he relied on you separately for advice and counsel on. I know he sought out your feelings on a number of things.
I don't know if that was justified, but you see, President Johnson was a very complex person, very complex. And yes, he did consult me, and if in fact he asked me to help him on certain occasions.
It was no coincidence that his commitment to Israel was unprecedented for an American president at the time. See, JFK had a cautious, balanced approach to the Middle East. He wanted good relations with Israel and the Arab countries. But LBJ, he went all in, cementing the so-called strategic alliance between the US and Israel that we see today. But that's not all. While Kennedy had a confrontational relationship with the Israel lobby, pushing them to register as foreign agents, under LBJ, the lobby thrived. Under his administration, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee gained a lot of influence and became one of the most dominant lobbying powers in Washington. Her relationship and personal influence with LBJ is what we now come to know as the deep state. An elite network of individuals who use their access and power to push their agendas. And in this case, it was the agenda of the pro-Israel lobby. But what happened next is one of the most unfathomable events in American history.
On the 5th of June, 1967, Israel launched an all-out war against its Arab neighbors.
It is June 5th, 1967, 5 years from that fateful meeting on the stairwell. Lyndon B. Johnson wakes up a sleeping Matilda from her room at the White House and tells her we are at war. But the US wasn't at war. Israel was. And for some reason, the President of the United States felt that he had to wake up Matilda and let her know. And what was she doing at the White House anyways? A few days later came one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. On June 8th, Israel attacked the USS Liberty, an American Navy ship in international waters off the coast of Egypt. 34 crew members were killed and 171 were wounded. And this is where it gets a bit strange. During the attack, the USS Liberty was able to send out an SOS distress signal. A nearby fleet got the call and was scrambling to help, but they were told to stand down by a call from Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. This was a very strange thing for the Secretary of Defense to intervene in. When another fleet tried to intervene, Lyndon B. Johnson stopped the US Navy from saving American lives. I don't give a damn, I will not embarrass my ally. And of course, he was referring to Israel. Let that sit for a second. The Secretary of Defense and the President wanted everyone to die to bury the truth, but Israel had failed to sink the ship and kill everyone. That's when the cover-up began.
Well, 2/3 of the crew was either dead or wounded. First thing we saw was several days later when Admiral Kidd got there, and he told him everything, what happened, and why didn't he come help us. And he says, he got beat red, and he got right in my face. He said, I'm telling you, you better never talk about this again to anybody. I'll make sure you end up in prison, fined, or worse. You know what worse means? I said, yes, sir, I do.
Survivors of the attack on the USS Liberty were threatened with death if they ever spoke out. It is speculated that the attack was planned by elements of the American deep state in Israel to pull the US into war with Egypt and its neighbors. And when it failed, the deep state chose Israel over its own people to save face and hide the truth.
When your own government betrays you, it still betrays you. And every congressman betrays you. Say, what you saw, you really didn't see. What you heard, you really didn't hear. That's pretty bad.
Until this day, there has been no accountability or justice for the USS Liberty.
It looks like something out of a horror movie, with people standing around or lying, wounded and dead and stunned.
When we take a step back, we see that Matilda Krim was by LBJ's side throughout the war, advising him on Israel and the American Jewish community like she had many times before, dictating memos, advising him on speeches, and relaying messages. While we may never know the full extent of her influence over the USS Liberty incident, what we know is, 1, the US-Israel relationship we see today was built under LBJ. 2, LBJ went to extraordinary lengths to protect Israel at the expense of American interests and American lives. 3, the Israel lobby, which struggled under Kennedy, exploded in power under LBJ, and now is one of the most dominant lobbies in American politics.
Around the time of the attack, the Washington Post had noted that the Jewish lobby could help determine the outcome of 169 of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House.
Matilda Krim is a perfect example of how the deep state works, operating in the shadows, manipulating power behind closed doors without any accountability from the public.
The Israelis have always been very skillful at tracking what the U.S. government is doing, saying, thinking, and effort to influence it.
It makes you wonder, who really directs American foreign policy? Our next character answers that question.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
It's 2003, and the U.S. is on the brink of invading Iraq. Officially, it's framed as a response to 9/11, but the war wasn't actually a reaction to an attack on American soil. It was part of a sinister plan, a decade in the making by elements of the deep state. And at the heart of it was Israel And how did we even get here? Well, the answer lies with the mastermind of the Iraq War, Dick Cheney.
If he stays in power, has that flow of significant sums coming off oil production, some 3 million barrels a day, he will devote those resources to rebuilding his biological, chemical, and nuclear program as soon as nobody's watching any longer. That's been his pattern for over 20 years, and there's no reason to believe it will be any different in the future.
Dick Cheney had long been a key player in the American deep state, serving in positions from White House Chief of Staff to Vice President and everything in between. But before Cheney became Bush's VP, he was the CEO and chairman of Halliburton, one of the world's largest oil and defense companies. Cheney was the embodiment of Washington's revolving door, a man moving seamlessly from powerful government roles to the private sector, often overlooking conflicts of interest to scratch the backs of his benefactors. Were corporate interests part of Cheney's fervent push for the Iraq War? Most certainly. Halliburton ended up receiving $39.5 billion in government contracts in Iraq following the invasion.
Just as I did when we made the decision to go into Iraq in 03. I believed in it then. I look back on it now. It was absolutely the right thing to do.
Cheney was the modern-day Allen Dulles. Like Dulles, Cheney believed in American supremacy, and that would go hand in hand in promoting the interests of big money globally. And in this case, it was oil and defense. This belief was part of Cheney's ideological makeup, what is known as neoconservatism, or the neocons for short, an important faction within the network of the American deep state. The neocons believed that the US should use its military, economic, and political might to maintain global dominance, and it saw the Middle East, then its oil, as essential for that vision. And Israel would be their key ally in what they painted as a grand battle between good versus evil.
Constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world by seeking weapons of mass destruction.
And there was no doubt where Saddam Hussein fell on that axis.
Iraq continues to flaunt its hostility toward America and to support terror. The Iraqi regime has plotted to develop anthrax and nerve gas and nuclear weapons for over a decade.
See, this is the part people tend to forget. Calls for the removal of Saddam started back in the early 1990s. Cheney and the neocons saw him as an obstacle for American hegemony and access to oil in the Middle East. That's when the plan to remake the region was hatched. In the mid-1990s, neocons who had formerly served in the American government went to Israel. At the behest of then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, these neocons were to develop a plan for regime change in the Middle East, to remove any leader that was part of the axis of evil, aka anyone that was hostile to Israel. That plan was called Clean Break. It would start with Iraq, and it would end with Iran. When Cheney and other neocons, like Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz, got into power, they saw their chance. The grand plan to remake the region was finally set in motion. And who was right there selling it to Congress? None other than Bibi Netanyahu.
Take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. And I think that people sitting right next door in Iran, young people, and many others will say, the time of such regimes, of such despots, is gone.
For the past 3 decades, we've witnessed the clean break strategy unfold. One government after another hostile to Israel was toppled. What started as a convenient alliance between Netanyahu and the neocons has now developed into something much more powerful.
Israel has run American foreign policy in the Middle East for 30 years. That's how it works. We have Israel lobby. We have this clean break strategy. We have a plan for 7 wars in 5 years. We've had 6 of those 7 wars. The only one that hasn't happened is Iran.
It is now clear for everyone to see. Netanyahu and Israel have completely hijacked American foreign policy in the Middle East.
This is Netanyahu's war to remake the Middle East.
And they've done so with bipartisan support across the American establishment.
It doesn't really matter who's president. This is long-term deep state policy. Israel has driven so many American wars, and we say, absolutely, yes, that's our greatest ally. These have been at huge cost to the United States, cost of trillions of dollars, cost geopolitically, but somehow we gave away our foreign policy to Israel years and years ago, and it's been absolutely devastating.
And how did this happen? His unprecedented longevity as Israel's prime minister, combined with the support of big money and the Israel lobby, has ensured that the American deep state is firmly aligned with Israel. And what happened if you challenge this deep state?
Why are you doing this to me?
Well, you'll face severe consequences. Today, we are witnessing the culmination of the deep state's trajectory, from Alan Dulles to Matilda Krim to Dick Cheney, three figures across history that were part of shadowy networks inside and outside of government that influenced the US to take a certain path. They all lead to one man.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption, once and for all. And corruption it is.
First, there's big money. Trump has lauded his desire to turn Gaza into a real estate deal, or potentially access the gas off its shores. But here, the big money also seeps into the Israel lobby. Beyond the usual suspects, there's the Adelsons. They are billionaire GOP megadonors, whose vast political spending is driven by pro-Israel policy. Across the last three presidential elections, they donated $250 million to Trump's campaigns, and that's the amount we know of. It has since been uncovered that Trump promised the Adelsons the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and the annexation of the Golan Heights by Israel in return for those donations, both which he did. That was in 2016, and in 2024, it is no different. It is speculated that in return for the $100 million contribution from the Adelsons, Trump will recognize Israel's legal annexation of the West Bank. This is by definition how the deep state works. Big money getting to influence and direct a country's policy. Then there's the vast network of the Israel lobby. Look at both of Trump's administrations. He didn't drain the swamp. If anything, he made it worse. The people who shaped his governments weren't outsiders. They were part of Washington's revolving doors and the immense network of America's deep state, from his personal advisors to secretaries of state to the heads of the CIA. The Israeli lobby had been cultivating their support for decades and even boasted about their connections.
Candidates, I ever met with this APAC professional in my job, see the candidate for Congress, this guy named John Maxwell. So he's supposed to be tripping over the CIA for crying out loud.
And finally, who actually controls America's foreign policy in the Middle East? Throughout his campaign, Trump echoed his America First ideology and his desire to end foreign wars. Yet in the blink of an eye, he rushed to support Israel's violation of the ceasefire and continuing its genocide in Gaza. It is clear that Netanyahu still pulls the strings, and the clean break strategy marches on as Israel remakes the region through normalization deals, regime change, and annexing land from its neighbors. Trump is not a knight in shining armor here to fight the deep state. Like Alan Dulles, Matilda Krim, and Dick Cheney, he is the deep state. And because of that, the greatest superpower in the history of the world continues to unconditionally support a tiny rogue nation in the Middle East as it destabilizes the entire world.
In 1899, a poem was published. Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need.
It takes a minute. It takes forever. I got a piece right here. It says, what does America get in return for bombing a country that never attacked us and wasn't a threat to us? Bombing countries that never attacked us. Iraq, Libya, Yemen, Syria, Iran, Is this what they mean by the rules-based order? Once again, the world's terrorists are us.
That was Jimmy Dore.
That's all I got. That's all I got, Mike.
Are you muted, Mike?
Yeah. I was muted. What's up now? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's it. We're done.
All right. Well, great little piece there. APAC has been a problem since what 1950s, right?
Yeah.
And World War II.
Yep, World War II. Yeah.
LBJ.
And folks, I mean, it's the same stuff. That's right, LBJ. It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff then as it is now.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just different names and different characters, right?
That's it. Same shit, different day.
Yep.
Nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new under the sun.
Disconnect. Have the knowledge of that we're sharing with you, that Sheepdogs and myself are sharing with you. Have the knowledge, do your own research on it, and know more about yourself and where you're going in this world versus where we've already been taken to and it didn't serve us, right? We're being born again. This is our opportunity. Love you all. Hope you have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
Order out of chaos, consuming all we know. Homes and dreams turn to ashes as the wildfires grow. Innocence caught in the crossfire, an ancient battle's game. Power plays in shadows, fueling the unending flame. Order out of chaos is what they say we need, but behind the smoke and mirrors, deception plants its seed. What's the truth? What's the lie?